Making Dreams Come True. Every great soul of man has had its vision and pondered it until the passion to make the dream come true has dominated his life. You will be what you will to be. Let failure find its false content in that poor world environment. But spirit scorns it and is free. The human will, that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, can hew a way to any goal, though walls of granite intervene. Washington, in a letter written when he was but 12 years old, said, "I shall marry a beautiful woman. I shall be one of the wealthiest men in the land. I shall lead the army of my colony. I shall rule the nation which I helped to create." General Grant, in his memoirs, says that as a boy at West Point he saw General Scott seated on his horse, reviewing the cadets, and something within him said, "Ulysses, some day you will ride in his place and be general of the army." Everyone knows how those boyish visions were realized by the mature men. The late J. Pierpont Morgan's fortune was built largely by the dynamic forcefulness of his thought, of his mental visualizing, the nursing of his youthful visions. He was a man of varied and aesthetic tastes, but he concentrated upon finance and he became the world's master in its science. Ancient Greece concentrated on beauty and art, and she became the great beauty model and art teacher of the world. The Roman Empire concentrated upon power and became mistress of the world. England concentrated on the control of the seas and commerce, and she has become the ruler of the seas and the greatest commercial nation in the world. We are a nation of money makers because Americans have concentrated largely upon the dollar. They think in its terms, they dream dollars. They hate poverty and they long for wealth. Whatever an individual or a people concentrates upon, it tends to get, because concentration is just as much of a force as is electricity. The youth who concentrates upon law, thinks law, dreams law, reads everything he can get a hold of relating to law, steals into courts, listens to trials at every chance he gets, is sure to become a lawyer. It is the same with any other vocational art, medicine, engineering, literature, music, any of the arts or sciences. Those who concentrate upon an idea, who continue to visualize their dreams, to nurse them, who never lose sight of their goal, no matter how dark or forbidding the way, get what they concentrate on. They make their minds powerful magnets to attract the thing on which they have concentrated. Sooner or later they realize their dreams. What could have kept Ole Bull from becoming a master musician? Who or what could keep back a boy who would brave his father's displeasure, steal out of his bed at night, and go into the attic to play his little red violin, which haunted his dreams and would not let him sleep? What could keep a Faraday or an Edison, whom no hardships frightened, from realizing the wonderful visions of boyhood? If you can concentrate your thought and hold it persistently, work with it along the line of your greatest ambition, nothing can keep you from its realization. But spasmodic concentration, spasmodic enthusiasm, however intense, will peter out. Dreaming without effort will only waste your power. It is holding your vision, together with persistent, concentrated endeavor on the material plane, that wins. There are thousands of devices in the patent office in Washington which have never been of any use to the world, simply because the inventors did not cling to their visions long enough to materialize it in perfection. They became discouraged. They ceased their efforts. They let their visions fade, and so became demagnetized and lost the power to realize them. Other inventors have taken up many such near successes, added the missing links in their completion, and have made them real successes. "Get thy spindle and distaff ready, and God will send the flax," saith the proverb. If we could only take God's promises to heart, and do our necessary part for their fulfillment, no one would be unsuccessful or unhappy. If we were to send out our desires intensely, to visualize them until our very mentalities vibrated with the things we long for, and to work persistently in their direction, we would attract them. Everywhere there are disappointed men and women who have soured on life because they could not get what they longed for, a musical or art education, the necessary training for authorship, for law or medicine, for engineering, or for some other vocation to which they felt they had been called. They are struggling along in an uncongenial environment, railing at the fate which has robbed them of their own. They feel that life has cheated them, when the truth is they have cheated themselves. They never got the spindle and distaff ready that would have drawn them to the flax for the spinning of a happy and complete life web. They did not insistently and persistently send out their desires and longings. They did not nurse them and positively refuse to give them up. Above all, they did not put forth their best efforts for their realization. 3 things we must do to make our dreams come true. Visualize our desire. Concentrate on our vision. Work to bring it into the actual. The implements necessary for this are inside of us, not outside. No matter what the accidents of birth or fortune, there is only one force by which we can fashion our life material: mind. The bee and the snake draw material from the same plant. One transmutes it into deadly poison, the other into delicious honey. The power that changes the stuff into new substance is within the bee and the snake. Of 2 boys or 2 girls in the same wretched environment, one picks up an education, trains him or herself for place and power, while the other grows up a nobody. It is all in the boy or the girl. Each has similar material to work in. One transmutes it into gold, the other into lead. 2 sailors force the same breeze to send their boats in opposite directions. It is not the wind, but the set of the sail that determines the port. The power that makes our desire our vision. A reality is not in our environment or in any condition outside of us. It is within us. There is some unseen, unknown, magnetic force developed by a long continued concentration of the mind upon a cherished desire that draws to itself the reality which matches the desire. We cannot tell just what this force is that brings out the thing we long for out of the cosmic ether and objectifies it, shapes it to correspond with our longing. We only know that it exists. The cosmic ether everywhere surrounding us is full of undreamed potencies. And the strong, concentrated mind reaches out into this ether, this sea of intelligence, attracts to its own, and objectifies the desire. All human achievements have been pulled out of the unseen by the brain, through the mind reaching out and fashioning the wealth of material at its disposal into the shapes which matched the wishes, the desires of the achievers. All of the great discoveries, great inventions, great deeds that have lifted man up from his animal existence have been wrought out of the actual by the perpetual thinking of and visualizing these things by their authors. These grand characters clung to their vision, nursed it until they became mighty magnets that attracted out of the universal intelligence the realization of their dreams. Most revolutionary inventions have evolved from a flash of thought. The sewing machine, for example, started with a simple idea, which the inventor held persistently in his mind until through his efforts the idea materialized into the concrete reality. Elias Howe used to watch his wife making garments, sewing far into the night, and it set him to thinking, questioning whether such drudgery was really necessary. As he watched her busy needle fly back and forth, he began to wonder if this same work, which it took his wife so long to do, could not be done with less labor and in half the time by some sort of mechanical contrivance. He kept nursing his idea, thinking what a splendid thing it would be if someone could relieve millions of women from this toil, which frequently had to be done at night after a day of hard work. He began to experiment with crude devices, clinging to his vision through poverty and denunciation of friends, who thought the man must be crazy to spend his time on such a fool idea. But at last his vision materialized into a marvelous reality, a perfected machine which has emancipated the women of the world from infinite drudgery. The idea of the telephone was flashed into the mind of Professor Alexander Bell by the draw of a string through a hole in the bottom of a tin can, by means of which he found that the voice could be transmitted. The idea took such complete possession of the inventor that it robbed him of sleep, and for a time made him poor. But nothing could rob him of his vision or prevent him from struggling to work it out of the visionary stage into the actual. I lived near Professor Bell in the next room. Indeed, while he worked on his invention, I saw much of his struggle with poverty, heard the criticisms and denunciations of his friends, as he persisted in his visionary work until the telephone became a reality without which modern business could not be conducted. All of Edison's inventions, those of every inventor, have been wrought out of the same principle that gave us the sewing machine and the telephone. They all started in simple ideas, in dream visions which were nursed and worked into actualities. According to Darwin, the desire to ascend into the heavens preceded the appearance and development of the eagle's wings. It is said our different organs and functions have been developed from a sense of need of them, just as the wings of the eagle developed from a desire to fly. The brain cells grow in response to desire. Where there is no desire, there is no growth. The brain develops most in the direction of the leading ambition, where the mental activities are most pronounced. The desire for a musical career, for instance, develops the musical brain cells. Business ambition develops that part of the brain which has to do with business, the cells which are brought into action in executive management, in administering affairs, in money making. Whenever we make our demand upon the brain by desire, that part responds in growth. For years a poor country boy builds air castles of his future. He visualizes the great mercantile establishment over which he is to preside. The ridicule of his family and of young companions cannot daunt him or blur the bright vision he sees away in the distance. He continues to nurse his vision, and behold, out of the unknown, unexpected resources come, and soon he finds himself an office boy in a great mercantile house in the city of his dreams. He watches everything with an eagle eye. He absorbs information and ideas. He is alert, active, energetic, resourceful, and in a few months he is promoted, and then again promoted. He attracts the attention of the head of the establishment, who calls him into his private office, tells him that he has had his eye on him for many months, and that he believes he is the youth he has been looking for to manage the business. He gives him a little stock. The business prospers still further under his management, and in a few years the new manager is made a full partner in the house which he entered as an office boy. This is the flowering out of his dream, the objectifying of his vision, the matching with reality